Good morning, Director Harr, Gunatilaka, ADCP here. The FBI asked me to put together crime scene investigation number 29, the actual ASIO investigation work that I'd performed. We asked what work the police have done. So Badar came to cricket and accused me. Since then I was the ASIO investigator. We asked what work they've done and where the photograph is. So where's the Michelle Pogmore photograph that they were showing everybody? They mega-raid me to miss. The police mega-raid me and said that I was talking about her missed. They also, it's alleged they also used the mega-raid on Michelle Pogmore, which is what the royal family were doing, procuring children with the LRAD and inheritance. Michelle had psychiatric disturbances. In fact, my doctors were Michelle Pogmore's doctors. So we'll be covering the investigation 688, my handwritten ASIO notes, and outlining some of the costs.
188, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 1 of 17, as per email sent regarding Harr Gunatilaka's ASIO recovery program, before and after as per page 504, and email sent 923, 25 November 18 subject, solved murder of Michelle Pogmore, they placed me CTO. They first placed me on a CTO in 2005 when I said Robert Butter murdered Michelle Pogmore in the white Ford Explorer, number plate starting with ZBY, and every subsequent time, the police try to take my daughter when she's with me and I have no custody. It's been the same for 13 years. This time when I told Parramatta Police they set me up for threatening them. Medical evaluation attachment 1 investigation evidence. Attachment 2 New South Wales Parliament Department of Community Services and Miss Michelle Pogmore. Attachment 3 medication results. Further evidence. Macquarie University Cricket Club Annual Report 2003-2004. Macquarie University Cricket Club Annual Report 2004-2005. Northern Suburbs Cricket Association Annual Report 2003-2004 as per link, https://1drv.ms/f/s!rfax W3DQPN5MHXMWNGJ_03WVZUC. Note, medical evaluation. It all started Saturday the 25th of September 2004 when Rob Butter turned up to Coolah Park Linfield where I was playing cricket and accused me of murdering Michelle Pogmore. Photograph 1. It was a traumatic experience and resulting with me abandoning the rest of the season in order to resolve the issue. Sydney Shires Competition Tim Creer Cup Round 1 Saturday the 25th of September 2004, Saturday the 2nd of October 2004 Linfield Deaf by Macquarie University venue. Caller. Match ID, 126,159 umpires, not specified, team not available, Igma, Rami Amerasingh, Ralph Gunatilaka, Hirendra Dunkerley, Alex Lato, Douglas, C. Roberts, Michael Schiller, David Rousetley, Brett Afzal, Imran Muhammad Ali, Faisal, UR 688. 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 2 of 17, Nelson, Paul, Butters. Group continued to follow me around for the remainder of the summer and accuse me of murdering Michelle Pogmore. They later turned out to be the Hornsby police. I told my parents that people were following me around accusing me of murder, and they did not believe me, and took me to the Hornsby hospital where I was diagnosed as schizophrenic where the doctors said it was in my head and to play a game to say it never happened. I was later told that the same person that accused me over the summer of 2004-2005, Robert Butter's vehicle the white Ford Explorer, number plate beginning with the letters ZBY was at the crime scene. Photograph 2. In September 2004, after Robert Butter had accused I became the head investigator. Attachment 1. The Honorary John Ryan Shadow Minister for Community Services, mentioned Michelle's murder the following day after her tragic death in New South Wales Parliament on the 23rd of February 2004. Attachment 2. As it turns out it's these parliamentary people that don't want me investigating and are associated with Robert Butter. The vehicle in question belongs to Tony Meagher who is both friends and colleagues with Honorary Joanne Ryan. Photo 1. New South Wales Police web page. Photo 2. Robert Butter. Photo 3. Michelle Pogmore investigation screenshots. Attachment 1. Investigation evidence. Attachment 2. New South Wales Parliament Department of Community Services and Miss Michelle Pogmore. Attachment 3. Medication results. Robert Butter Luke alike. UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 3 of 17, Judge Tony Meagher's vehicle. Attachment 1. Investigation evidence. Undercover investigation notes Michelle Pogmore. Undercover investigation notes Michelle Pogmore. Telephone 8:51 a.m. the 13th of June, 2014. The white Ford Explorer belonged to the security guard, known as Butt. At the time, Michelle Pogmore, aged 12 years old. It is alleged that Robert crushed her skull. Robert is also believed to have discovered her body. The case was initially announced on the Sunday morning the 22nd of February 2004 at 8:00 a.m. on the radio in Sydney. The radio said she was still breathing at the time. It is alleged that Robert dumped her body. The tape shows Michelle's driver as the person that raped her. A group of police women, known as the Girls, wanted to pay Jesus the $100,000 reward, as they believed the person known as Jesus solved the case, but is alleged to be Michelle's driver. The investigators dismissed the notion that the cause of death was due to her having her skull crushed by a block of concrete. The concrete block was recovered by ASIO field agents and sent to the FBI for analysis. It is alleged that Tony Meagher's son is the owner of the Ford Explorer, UR 688. 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 4 of 17, AGIS, Australian Government Investigation Standards Test Evidence. The 26th of April 2014 the police admitted that they did not investigate the case. Test program consequences. Pimpdaddyrob 1979 yahoo.com.au. Test email. Reporters above set up failed process. Their process has not changed. Fabricate telephone conversations back and forwards to alleging to which Jose crushed her skull. Interview Matthew Herbert's group for specific information. They said it was the person known to them as Jesus, Tony Meagher's son. Also mentioned she was with Matthew Herbert. Matthew's DNA. Why do they want to bring ASIO in custody? Harry Gunatilaka. They want to hang me up. Conclusion. The police did not investigate the murder of 12-year-old Michelle Pogmore. Telephone 3:39 p.m. Sunday the 8th of June, 2014. The police admitted that they did not investigate the case. The investigators wanted to arrest all the musicians in connection to Michelle's murder. Telephone conversation with investigators 8 a.m. the 10th of June, 2014. They mentioned that Michelle Pogmore had been sold. Question. Who was Michelle Pogmore sold to? 11:29 a.m. Question. You received drugs, as a formal payment, to stir the house. 12:17 p.m. The investigators said they rather choose who the murder would be. It would be better if all the hip-hop musicians went down. It would be better Niggs down. The investigation is ongoing. In order to solve Michelle Pogmore's murder case, the investigators need to refer to the situation and specific details at the time, and in particular what had been mentioned at the time of her murder on the 22nd of February 2004. Their process started when ASIO matched the vehicles connected to THE driver and they got peeved. The 21st of June, 2014. They pasted my face over Butt's photo. The guy with the big butt ass from cricket. September 2004, who accused me of Michelle Pogmore during the game. Hence they obviously knew it was Butt. The 23rd of June, 2014. The investigators planned to give the $100K reward to Michelle's driver, and it was later revealed that in fact he may have been Michelle's murderer. Harry in a defensive mode means Harry is always responding, and the investigators are always saying that I was her rapist. The problem is that none of this should have happened if they had have arrested Meagher in the first place. Case closed. Michelle Pogmore. The New South Wales Police closed the Michelle Pogmore case after the coronial inquiry in 2006. Ridiculously, despite the case being closed, the investigators keep persisting with rape allegations towards ASIO investigator Harry. UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 5 of 17, Gunatilaka, suggesting even though the evidence suggests that they knew Robert crushed her skull, they harassed the ASIO investigator to this effect. National Security and conclusion. National Security have determined an adverse security assessment of the investigators' process in this case, and subsequently determined the whole process is a threat to national security. Freedom is precious thing. WHN you have to pay for it. 8 a.m. the 14th of July, 2014. When they rewind the surveillance they should know who it is. They know it's Meagher's son. The police were not allowed to use the email pimpdaddyrob1979 at yahoo.com.au. Telephone conversation 2:14 p.m. the 14th of July, 2014. The police mentioned that the Liberal Party would not allow them to arrest the people involved in the Michelle Pogmore case. Telephone conversation 11:07 a.m. the 15th of July, 2014. Tony Meagher is close friends with former Prime Minister John Howard. The investigators believed that Michelle's driver had solved the murder case, and is thus entitled to the $100K reward, to whom it is later revealed by ASIO turns out to allegedly be Michelle's murderer. Attachment 2. New South Wales Parliament, Department of Community Services and Miss Michelle Pogmore. Department of Community Services and Miss Michelle Pogmore. Printing tips. Print selected text. Full day Hansard transcript. Prior item 38 of 95. Next item. About this item. Subjects: Government Department, New South Wales, Community Services, Murder, Youth. Speakers: Ryan the Hon John, T. Tebbet the Hon Carmel, Business. Questions without notice. Commentary. Supplementary question asked Michelle Pogmore, Department of Community Services and Miss Michelle Pogmore, page 6386. The Hon John Ryan. I direct my question without notice to the Minister for Community Services. How many times was the allegedly murdered 13-year-old Michelle Pogmore the subject of a notification to the Department of Community Services helpline, or to the Department of Community Services, DOCS? What responses did each of those notifications receive from DOCS? Were there occasions when a notification concerning the child was not allocated to a caseworker for investigation? The Hon Carmel Tebbet. I thank the Hon John Ryan for his question. He has raised the tragic death of a young 13-year-old girl. I know that every member of this House joins me in expressing our sympathy to the family and friends of this young girl, and in assuring them that our thoughts are with them at this time. They must be going through a terrible time while trying to deal with their grief. The matter is subject to a full police, UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka. pH 6 of 17, investigation, and the department will co-operate fully. I confirm that the young girl was a client of the Department of Community Services, DOCS, and that the department has worked with her and her family for a number of years, since the girl was 10 years old. I am advised that during that time DOCS made a number of attempts to help this young girl, including numerous referrals to specialist services. It was also recommended that the young girl attend Redbank House at Westmead Hospital, which provides programs for the full range of adolescent emotional, behavioral and psychiatric disturbances. This young girl was also placed in a refuge and foster care when she was not able to live at home. The most recent planning meeting was held on the 13th of January 2004. This was a most complex case. I am advised that a risk of harm assessment had been completed recently to support the making of a care application, but, tragically, criminality intervened. I have asked for a full report from DOCS on its involvement in this case. The House also should note that there will be an independent review undertaken by the Ombudsman, as is required under legislation introduced by this government. Should that review make recommendations for reform, they will be addressed. As I have stated on many occasions in the past, the provision of services and support for troubled teenagers who are involved in high-risk activities over which their families have no control is an issue for governments worldwide. These high-risk young people at times manifestate an acute crisis level of disturbance through self-harm and violent or antisocial behavior. They often have a background of neglect and abuse. These are not easily resolved issues. The government has led the way in promoting cross-agency cooperation to support people who are at risk. The government has also supported the funding of a range of services, such as services through the Community Services Grants Program, CSGP, to provide community-based youth and adolescent support services, including 46 adolescent and family counseling services, and services through the Supported Accommodation Program to provide accommodation and support services to homeless young people. The government recognized in its 5-year strategic plan for DOCS that more needs to be done, particularly to provide a range of suitable accommodation options for teenagers who, for whatever reason, cannot live with their families. Earlier this month, an expression of interest process commenced aimed at establishing new and extended out home care services for young people who have challenging or high-risk behaviors. Expressions of interest from potential providers close on the 23rd of March. I look forward to early assessment of the options submitted. I anticipate that this will greatly improve the range of accommodation that is available. However, I add a word of caution to people who look for glib and simple solutions. There are none in this area. The suggestion that locking up highly disturbed young people will address the issues is clearly not the case. Secure care may well be one option in a range of support services for highly disturbed young people, but we also need to find better ways to engage these young people and better ways of providing therapeutic services. Unfortunately, in many cases we need to try to find ways of repairing a lifetime of abuse and neglect that these young people have experienced. Any government service will find that difficult. I have outlined some of the initiatives that the New South Wales government has put in place to ensure that a better range of support will be provided to this group of young people. With regard to the specific case to which the Honourable Member has referred, that is the subject of a full investigation by the Ombudsman. As I have indicated, the Hon John Ryan, I ask a supplementary question. The Minister said that during the department's interaction the young girl was placed in a youth refuge. Will the Minister inform the House what age she was when placed in the youth refuge, for how long, and what additional support was given to her to ensure that she had appropriate adult supervision? UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka. Page 7 of 17, the Hon Carmel Tebet. As I indicated, I have asked for a full report from the Department of Community Services about its involvement in this young girl's life. I do not have the details requested by the Honourable Member. I have some information that I have already provided to the House about the Department's involvement with this young girl. I would be happy to provide further information to the House, but obviously it needs to be understood that this matter is the subject of a criminal investigation. I would not do anything to jeopardize that process. The Department will also provide full information to the Ombudsman to assist the Ombudsman in his review of this matter. UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka. Page 8 of 17, UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka. Page 9 of 17. Attachment 3 Medication results. Medication results. It's Harry here. Hope you're well. The Brisbane Women's Hospital doctors diagnosed me as being schizophrenic, without any symptoms. I was detained for 1 month for observation and put on Enviga. I was extremely fit and healthy, before within 3 months I became overweight. I slept 22 hours each day only waking up to eat. I became overweight and obese. I took up smoking cigarettes to overcome the constant drowsy feeling. Also, I wasn't allowed access to my child cause I'm schizophrenic. Dr. Luke Purvey mentioned I had been diagnosed with schizophrenia in the past by Hornsby Hospital and it is a lifelong condition. I begged him not to put me on medication cause it will make me sleep all day and I'll become obese again. He didn't take any notice of what I said. Life became a struggle and had to change address several times as a direct result. It started in 2004 when I told the Hornsby police that I worked out that a guy by the name of Rob drove in a white Ford Explorer, with number plate ZBY with Michelle Pogmore, a 12-year-old girl FR on Western Sydney that was murdered on the 22nd of February 2004. They took me to Hornsby Hospital and said I was schizophrenic and rendered me useless from that point on. I moved from my young family to Queensland in 2011, when they put me on meds again and my girlfriend left me when I became overweight and useless. It has now become apparent that same people that said I was first schizophrenic were friends with Michelle's driver Rob. Attached photo meds 2015 before and 3 months after. Photo of alleged Michelle's driver and vehicle, white Ford Explorer reg starting ZBY. Attached photo 2011 before meds and after. https://www.police.newsouthwales.gov.au. Can you help us? Reward /100,000 reward /20,061,118 reward to solve Mount Druitt murder. UR 688, 25 November 18. By Harr Gunatilaka, pH 10 of 17, medication before 2014, text, XX August, 2014, UR 688. 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 11 of 17, after medication 2014, medication before 2010. Text, XX April, 2015, text, XX the 9th of May, 2010, square, UR 688, 25 November 18. By Harr Gunatilaka, pH 12 of 17, after medication 2010, text, XX February, 2011, Bechtel, UR 688. 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 13 of 17, note, CTO Community Treatment Order, UR 688. 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 14 of 17, UR 688, 25 November 18. By Harr Gunatilaka, pH 15 of 17, UR 688, 25 November 18, by Harr Gunatilaka. pH 16 of 17, Harr Gunatilaka. UR 786, 23 APR 20, by Harr Gunatilaka, pH 1 of 11, the FBI have ascertained the Australian politicians, Penny Wong, Christina Keneally, Anthony Albanese, Kevin Rudd, Peter Dutton, both Liberal, Labor and the Greens with their government policy legislation ASIO are rewinding the Michelle Pogmore 12-year-old Michelle Pogmore case over and over again inside my house using Mega sonic weapon and Huawei sonic device to sign a confession and steal Harr Gunatilaka's pay sum award and investments accusing Harr Gunatilaka of murdering her. As per email RSE 7:53 p.m., 26 September 15, continued, subject, can you ask who did Michelle say raped her? Hi, can we ask John Watkins who Michelle said raped her? $100,000 reward to solve girl's murder. Sun Herald Sunday November 19, 2006 by Eamon Duff. A reward of $100,000 was posted yesterday by police determined to crack an unsolved teenage murder. Michelle Pogmore, 13, was found dead in a bushland reserve 400 meters from Mount Druitt Police Station on February 22, 2004. The teenager had been reported missing by her mother after failing to return to her Bidwell home. She was last seen 36 hours earlier after attending a nearby street party. Striker Force ICE work was formed to investigate the murder, but detectives have exhausted all leads. Police Minister John Watkins said yesterday he hoped the six-figure reward, recommended by the New South Wales coroner, might persuade people with information to come forward. This was a particularly heinous crime, he said. This young lady's life was cut short in its prime and her killer or killers are still at large. They need to be held to account for their actions and Michelle's grieving family needs answers. At an inquest at Westmead Coroner's Court in February, it was revealed Michelle had been a troubled teenager who had battled attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, experienced mood swings and showed difficult behavior. She had repeatedly run away from home, got into fights and skipped school. But she was undoubtedly bright, loved to read and was trusting of almost everyone she met. Detectives had investigated a possible link between Michelle's murder and a rape she suffered several weeks beforehand. She had confided to an uncle that a man aged between 50 and 60 was responsible. Key P number equals corresponding highlighted Daily Intelligence Brief page 00. Text. The FBI allege the Australian politicians used Mega sonic weapon LRAD on Michelle Pogmore, UR 786, 23 APR 20. By Harr Gunatilaka, pH 2 of 11, police launched a manhunt but never found the offender. New South Wales Deputy State Coroner Carl Milovanovich was unable to determine a definite cause, time or even place of death. Copyright 2006 Sun Herald. As per article, Govt orders report on teen's death, link, https://mobile.abc.net.au news/2004-02-24/govt, orders, report, on, teen's death /141172 from Reda equals SM and PFM equals SM. The FBI allege the Australian politicians used Mega sonic weapon LRAD on Michelle Pogmore as per email sent 12:46 p.m., 11 Sep 15, continued, subject, we allege Herbert's groups got together to murder William Terrell, because the Y wanted the limelight, and thought that we would make music about William Terrell. On the 11th of September, 2015, at 12:46 p.m., nice spec at hotmail.com, wrote, Hi, it's Harr here, hope everyone is well. We allege the LRAD phone groups have used this on children as young as 3 years old, where they learn and play in kindergarten and also across certain schools. In some cases, victims have been characterized by their low economic status. Students have been sexually harassed and bullying students is not uncommon. Victims are children. Schools and parents need to be more vocal and alert of the dangers and aware of symptoms the phone may present. Some LRAD phone teams use it fracture children, otherwise known as emotional control induced as a result of constant trauma inflicted by the phone teams. The home and places where children learn and play do not become a safe environment. There have been examples of cases where children can't eat and have known to be afraid to attend class. In several of these cases, they hassle them whenever they look at the blackboard, and they have reported their invisible friend causes a climate of fear and anxiety for them. Harr, Gunatilaka reported police phone on Michaela. Both teachers and parents have reported cases over the past few years. ASIO and Australian National Security would like to see more reporting of these cases to relevant authorities. Task 1. Follow up the reported cases of the Polly's LRAD and invisible friends into the health and medical professions. Task 2. Revisit those children's cases to if physical or sexual abuse was a factor. Some of the LRAD teams are not supporting teachers. The LRAD phone teams have been linked to funding grants and loans allocated for schools. Symptoms facing children may incorporate but not limited to children expressing undue sadness, anxiety and agitation, missing events, children becoming unsuccessful, deteriorating physical appearances and an overall neglect of personal hygiene, sleeping too much or disturbed sleep, withdrawal from friends or family, losing interest in hobbies or loss of appetite, performing poorly at work or school, dramatic and frequent mood changes, reckless and violent self-destructive behavior, feeling of guilt, shame and failure, desperation, feeling there's no way out or solution to the problem. Task 3. Are the LRAD teams linked to the medication regime where the combination of two can ensure that the victim is constantly defeated and a lifetime of hardship? It can be a sign of Polly's LRAD teams. It is alleged that some politicians provided the equipment and training for the LRAD phone teams. Regards, Harr, Gunatilaka. Q. The FBI asks as per photo, why it's not Michelle Pogmore's real dad and who wrote the letter?
You need to speculate if it was a Ku Klux Klan case. International Terror Investigation. This is a known investigation related to terrorism, with Department of Defense, FBI, continuing the investigations. The public impact has been great. Ku Klux Klan, okay. Loads of stuff on the Ku Klux Klan. The Lynn family investigation. Just my rough notes. Who did they sell Michelle Pogmore to? The phone people said they sold Michelle Pogmore. The driver, Bob, sold her. Which is what the pedophile cops are doing. They were selling Michelle Pogmore. They were selling it to the ministers. Hornsby safe area. They plan to give the Michelle Pogmore the reward money, the driver the reward money, which later turned out to be the murderer. Hornsby police were standing around waiting for Michelle to be murdered. Michelle Pogmore to see who the Harry Potter people were. What are the differences? There are a number of differences taken from different angles. This is the documentary, the movie. They quickly moved to the atrocity. How quickly did it take for them to arrive at the scene? Where were they before they arrived? They were at Hornsby Police Station, 24th of the 6th, 15. Did anyone call them? Called around. Did they stop her somewhere, anywhere on the way there? Was Michelle Pogmore raided? Who raided her? They put Michelle Pogmore on medication. The documentary. Channel 7 made the documentary. It's very much she was still alive in the documentary. It was on television. The movie's linked to the LRAD people. The problem is she was only 12 years old. Robert was the Channel 7 cameraman, his twin brother. Robert's twin brother, Toby. Is that right? Sort of. Rocking Michelle was Sandy. They killed Michelle Pogmore to see who made Harry Potter. Jesus Raiders. But Harr is of course Jesus.
From Michael Santaniel, address. Michelle Pogmore case, the 9th of March 2020. Would you be able to retrieve satellite images from the dates ranging 02, 20, 22, 02, 2004, 04 of the Mount Druitt Reserve? I was able to, but only for 1/2/2004. If we can obtain a timeline satellite image for the dates during the day and night, it might show when Michelle had entered the location at the reserve and how Michelle had arrived at the location. Possibly it might show how many people might have been present at the time and even possibly show what time she was actually murdered. Also, if Michelle had walked to where she was murdered or carried from the parking lot of the Betts Center, it may even possibly show a short time lapse to see if someone had buried her clothing somewhere else within the scrub brush area, which is a pretty large area. Getting back to the pullover top thought, the pullover might have been worn if it had gotten cooler. Michelle might have anticipated Friday evening that it could cool down, which means it is very possible that Michelle had been murdered between midnight Friday night and 6-7 a.m. Saturday morning. They say it's a 10-minute car ride from 2 Rose Court, Bidwell, to the reserve. It would take approximately 2 hours plus to walk the distance, unless she was picked up along Carlisle Avenue, which a satellite image would show for sure. It was hot all weekend back in February 2004. I do not believe Michelle would have worn the pullover during the 45-degree weather on that Saturday unless she was not wearing a t-shirt underneath at the minimum. It would also possibly explain the advanced decomposition of her body if she was murdered during the hours I just mentioned. Again, I believe her clothes could still be buried at the reserve site. A cadaver dog could sniff it out if one was brought in. I believe Michelle had been murdered at the reserve. She had clean white socks when they found her, and it doesn't mean she was murdered somewhere else. It's a possibility, but a slim possibility. Full stop. The rape could have, and it is most likely post-mortem, explaining the socks being clean. The coroner also mentioned that Michelle had no skeletal fractures. It was also mentioned that being the body was very decomposed, that no definitive cause of death could be uncovered, leaving the possibility of a homicidal strangulation. It's possible and fair to say that Michelle could have been smothered with her pullover if it had a hood attached to it. I had also mentioned to a family member about an independent autopsy, which they kind of shrugged off. It would mean an exhumation of Michelle's body if she was buried. I understand it can be very emotional for the family, but it could also uncover some evidence that could not be tested back in 2004. New scientific measures going on nowadays. Found in inbox, from Michael Santaniel, address, the 31st of August 2020, Pogmore case, second email, hello Harr. I feel that the Pogmore family needs to be reinvestigated. Maybe some new information might have come up over the years. I had chatted with a cousin of Michelle's last year or late in the previous year 2018. According to her cousin, the pullover that Michelle had been wearing that Thursday into that Friday morning, which says the USA on it, was bought by one of the cousins. I had asked about the pullover because here in the US we do not sell pullovers with other countries' names on them in that type of pullover, which led me to think that it could have been possible to be a gift from someone here in the US who might have been visiting New South Wales. My other thought on this specific timeline of the CCTV was that it had been 40 to 45 degrees Celsius in New South Wales all weekend. In American terms, it would calculate to about 100 to 103 degrees Fahrenheit. If that was the case of weather, why would Michelle be wearing a piece of clothing which is meant for the winter time? The CCTV caught Michelle walking through Dawson Mall towards the train station of Mount Druitt, not walking towards Bidwell where she lives. The paper articles, news, say that Michelle had mental issues, to say the least. Had Michelle been taking any prescription medications, and if so, did she carry them on her person? The article also mentions the following: she was still wearing clean white socks when she was found in bushland, leading police to suspect she died elsewhere. The court heard that may not be the case. It would be possible that Michelle was murdered first at the reserve. If that was the case, then the socks would have been clean after the shoes and pants were removed. The DNA which was found possibly could be of a man. What makes one so sure that a woman was not involved? I still feel that Michelle's belongings possibly could still be buried at the reserve in the area where Michelle's body had been found. Did the authorities use a cadaver dog to find evidence? If not, they should try again. Cadaver dogs, if trained properly along with its trainer, could smell a scent through concrete. They can also smell a scent underground to 15 feet. They can also smell out a body in water from the surface. They could possibly retrieve a piece of clothing that Michelle's mother still has tucked away, like a jacket that most likely has not been washed. The dog might be able to pick up a scent from it. This is all speculation. Then again, it's something to ponder on because the authorities aren't doing much better. According to Michelle's family, she wasn't really a runaway. Her father planted a rose bush under Michelle's bedroom window to try to prevent her from leaving to wander around. I understand Michelle's father blames the mother for this case. I believe Michelle's oldest brother refuses to talk to his mum as well. Michelle's rape prior to her death is still a question in hand, and again it is said that Michelle's mother knew her daughter's rapist. I would think that if Michelle had been raped, that she would fear walking around at night. Apparently she wasn't afraid to wander around where most women would have been after an experience of bodily violation. I will stop here. I still feel the family should be reinvestigated. I will send another email about another possible theory. Would it be possible to obtain a copy of the newspaper that covered Michelle's murder? Susan Wright was Michelle's very close friend, and I believe she was the friend that Michelle had mentioned to her mum before leaving the house back in 2004. She could also hold answers to why Michelle was in a bad mood when she came home from school. Michael, RRM Images. Found in inbox, from, Michael Santanilo, address, the 15th of August 2020, Pogmore case, New South Wales. Hello, Harr. Sorry for the late response. This is just a brief thought of the Michelle Pogmore case. I actually came across this case by accident. Being from the US, I had been doing some research of my own and it eventually came across the Pogmore case. The following is my own thoughts of the case. I have been following the case for almost 2 years now. I had chatted with a family member briefly about the case a year ago. The family member had been a cousin. The cousin had sent me a copy of the live video of a medium who had spoken of the Pogmore case. I will elaborate on that particular segment later. My basic thoughts are as follows. Michelle had come home from school in a bad mood. Her mother Kathy Nowland had given her a pair of new sneakers to cheer her up. She had told the mother that she was going to a friend's house. It was not mentioned that she was going shopping. Michelle had been seen on CCTV walking through Dawson Mall and the MT Druitt train station on early Friday morning, approximately 2:30 a.m. Where was Michelle from? Approximately from 3 a.m. that Friday until 7 p.m. that Friday evening till she left the party. It had been mentioned that Michelle was seen walking down Carlisle Ave after the party on row CT. This individual said Michelle walked past her while she had been talking on the phone with a friend. Could it be possible that this person who saw Michelle walk by mentioned it by chance to the person she had been talking to on her cell phone? Michelle Pogmore's body had been found at the Mount Druitt Reserve by a passerby on the same weekend, that Sunday morning around 8 a.m. approximately 32 to 34 hours after the party in Bidwell, the same town where she resided. Ms. Pogmore's pants and new sneakers were not found on her body. It was not mentioned if Ms. Pogmore had undergarments on or not when her body was found. Could Ms. Pogmore's pants and new sneakers still be buried in the same area of the Mount Druitt Reserve? The area where Michelle's body had been found covers a large area of brush and trees. It's possible it could still be there today. Questions had been raised throughout the years. The coroner could not place a time, place or cause of death for Michelle. Michelle had also been raped prior to her death, and questions had been raised whether or not it was connected to Michelle's possible homicide. I say possible at this time because the coroner's report does not give a definite on anything to be considered an actual homicide, including any sort of foul play. Weather conditions. The weather conditions according to my research was very hot and dry. It did not rain that weekend in February 2004. Physical body conditions. Michelle's body was in decomposition when found. Mother was not allowed to view the decedent. I understand Michelle had no alcohol in her body system. Michelle did have some marijuana in her system. DNA was found on the decedent. No mention of certain insects on the body that might require a water source. No water source in proximity of decedent. No mention if fingerprints were taken from fingernails and toenails or the cornea of the decedent's eyes. I would not expect this type of information to be given out. It was just a question on the forensics side. Also, could it be possible for fingerprints to be taken from the decedent's teeth? No mention of bodily injury or trauma to the decedent. Possible second suspect involved based on the location of the body when found. My summation: it's possible a second suspect may be involved since it's easier to carry a deceased body with two people instead of one, and a lot easier to carry a deceased body by the legs with no pants on. It is possible the decedent had a family relative living in Mount Druitt at the time of her death. It is possible that the decedent knew her murderer. There are questions and theories which I will mention in the next email. Michael. This content is classified for CUI and classified, or information classified at a lower level than the overall classification displayed. This content shall not be used as a source of derivative classification. Refer instead to Executive Order 12333 United States Intelligence Activities. It must be reviewed for both classified national security information, CNSI, and CUI in accordance with DODI 5230.09 prior to public release. Part 1. Robert Meagher for driving Michelle Pogmore to White Power rallies. This to display all drives or only drives with available public appointments, White Power rallies. The FBI allege they're conducting Michelle Caitlin Pogmore child murder investigation guilty as Louise Huddard, wedding, plan for a stronger Australia Liberal Party election photo, Liberal Party election architects and Robert Meagher, Bob, sponsored by John Howard. Note, UR, latest update, J.K. Rowling's organised Daniel Morecambe's murder, 2003, so Louisa can become Harry Potter in the movies, not book. David Irvine ASIO head. Bought Daniel Morecambe from Robert Meagher for child sex and was devil worshipped by the Freemasons. Louisa whilst a paedophile cop told Robert Meagher who all paedophiles are for to provide the kids that Louisa gave to him, where Louisa received $30 for each child prostitute when she was head of community services. Louisa often scolded the children, accused them of behavioral problems after they were prostitutes. Ted placed on depot schizophrenic injection. Louisa gave Michelle Pogmore to Robert Meagher, sold her to everyone including John Howard. He then killed her at Herbert's house and put her into Matthew's bed. He went down to my house to ask if I've ever seen Michelle Pogmore. I was at the Star City Casino. Herbert was going to put me and my mother Gladys in prison for Michelle Pogmore's murder and take our house and my black Skyline. Herbert bought my black Skyline R33 through Lisa Adams. Separate, can you verify Robert Meagher as per photo, yes no, is it Michelle Pogmore's crime scene? ASIO advised the investigation tasks are very tumultuous and laborious for ASIO investigations, and ASIO operations apprehended Robert Meagher's GSIS Group S for a successful mission. The FBI allege the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have different time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. Together we risk profiles with the guy with huge ass, but Robert Meager, Q. The FBI asked, do the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have a modelling or TV work portfolio, with some cases reflected? Q. The FBI asked the federal police what happened to Channel 7 Michelle Pogmore frame 1, they put me on TV, showed Robert Meager was driving her. ASIO have declared they apprehend Robert Meager. The FBI allege Louisa Huddard, Hells Angels, worked in child services with Michelle Pogmore, gave her to Robert Meager for $30 for each time she was dropped off at someone's house. Louisa Huddard complained Michelle Pogmore has behavioral issues and placed her on schizophrenic depot injection. ASIO allege the Grey Noma DS motorcycle gang work with and are present with the following: Jason Herbert's Federal Police, TWO Cops, the Ku Klux Klan Police that alleged THE Director General of Australian National Security raped Michelle Pogmore, and include TAIR Female Police from Robert M. Meager's Queensland Police Service Group. ASIO direct operations to apprehend Bob Butts groups. This content is classified for official use only, FSOU, level, and may contain elements of controlled and classified information, CUI, unclassified, or information classified at a lower level than the overall classification displayed. This content shall not be used as a source of derivative classification. Refer instead to Executive Order 12333 United States Intelligence Activities. It must be reviewed for both classified national security information, CNSI, and CUI in accordance with DOD 5230.09 prior to public release. Note, the Police Commissioner Mick Fuller and New South Wales Police and Ministers stated, the daily intelligence brief is not happening. Schizophrenia, see if they're Robert Meager's cops. Exit search mode. Part 2. It's more than one child murder case. Note, say, I think it's a. The FBI alleged to be thankful for your food on your table, health and loved ones. The FBI allege the FBI will be arriving. Look forward to the FBI. Read FBI. The FBI alleged Harr Gunatilaka as broadcast live and public safety as an Australian national security priority. They coordinated a scenario and created an unseen dangerous event. As per page 518, Harr is responsible for issuing information for our national security operations. Harr provides investigative leads and conducts the investigations as per our national security objectives. National security objectives, mandatory requirement to apply where appropriate. Guidebook. I beat the maze with this anti-alking points and Harr defeated the South African Megaphone. Successful 1787. Current find, the cheat book. US me have authorized UR and issued for use. As per https://1drv.ms/f/s. The FBI allege it's more than one child murder case. The FBI allege the stars they stated I popped her. Q. The FBI ask who? Identifier, Louisa. How did they know son? Why? The FBI have ascertained the stars have an 8K professional grade camera. Q. The FBI ask did they use that, video cameras? The FBI have ascertained photo management. Transferred onto your computer. The FBI direct operations to use photo management. The STARS 8K professional grade camera and video cameras are transferred onto your computer. Daily Intelligence Brief 800, Revised 0, Note, SQL Server is the Chanel 7 server. Good morning. Please find attached a revised Global National Security Intelligence Brief. Note, SQL Server is the Chanel 7 server. 800 PDF, 217 kilobytes. This content is classified for official use only, FSOU, level and may contain elements of controlled and classified information, CUI, unclassified, or information classified at a lower level than the overall classification displayed. This content shall not be used as a source of derivative classification. Refer instead to Executive Order 12333 United States Intelligence Activities. It must be reviewed for both classified national security information, CNSI, and CUI in accordance with DOD 5230.09 prior to public release. Part 1. The FBI allege after executing the call, you should get a result set with 2 of the rows. Q. The FBI asks per page 799 what text messages did Peter Dutton, Julia Bishop, Scott Morrison, Tony Meagher and the Australian Liberal Party election architects send from Mount Druitt on the 22nd of February 2004 using their mobiles phones. The FBI allege Sandy Meagher and Tony Meagher had Java software on my PC to see what I was looking at. Car import business spreadsheet. The FBI allege these 2 steps will reveal the setup. Part 2. Dear Harr, Gunatilaka propose a practical scheme for EXIF metadata and error control codes, systems and digital forensics identified selected coefficients in the transform domain to accomplish the embedding process. We consider not only the image contents itself, but we also employ the EXIF metadata to be integrated into our scheme. Moreover, capability, channel coding is employed, taking the manufacturer, camera model, date and time stamp, and some other information in the EXIF metadata into account. Techniques can be applied to pictures taken on Robert Meagher's camera. The original EXIF with selected information can mostly be recovered from the channel decoding process where the camera, photos SD card and PC computer are no longer available. 2004. Step 1. Robert Meagher's SD card overview, recovering metadata process on camera to PC interfaces used from channel decoding the SQL server. The Microsoft Extensibility SDK for Java will help you to implement a Java program that can be called from SQL Server 2019. Preview. The SDK is an interface for the Java language extension and is used to exchange data with SQL Server and to execute Java code from SQL Server. The SDK is installed as part of SQL Server 2019 CTP 3.0 preview on both Windows as Linux. Very soon, the SDK will also be available under releases in this repository. Default installation path on Windows, instance installation home directory, MSSQL bin MSSQL Java Lang extension jar. Default installation path on Linux, apt MSSQL lib MSSQL Java Lang. Extension jar. Read more about the Microsoft Extensibility SDK for Java for Microsoft SQL Server on our Microsoft Docs. Implementation requirements. Key P number equals corresponding highlighted daily intelligence brief page 00. The SDK interface defines a set of requirements that need to be fulfilled for SQL Server to communicate with the Java runtime. To use the SDK, you need to follow some implementation rules in your main class. SQL Server can then execute a specific method in the Java class and exchange data using the Java language extension. For an example of how you can use the SDK, see tutorial. Search for a string using regular expressions, regex, in Java. SDK classes. The SDK consists of 3 Java classes. Source code. 2 abstract classes that define the interface the Java extension uses to exchange data with SQL Server. Capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital E, X, E, C, capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital D, A, T, A. The third class is a helper class, which contains an implementation of a dataset object. It is an optional class you can use, which makes it easier to get started. You can also use your own implementation of such a class instead. Primitive dataset, capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital E, X, E, C. The abstract class, capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital E, X, E, C, contains the interface used to execute Java code by the Java language extension for SQL Server. Your main Java class needs to inherit from this class. Inheriting from this class means that there are certain methods in the class you need to implement in your own class. Capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital D, A, T, A. The abstract class, capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital D, A, T, A, contains the interface for handling input and output data used by the Java extension. Primitive dataset. The class primitive dataset is an implementation of capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital D, A, T, A, that stores simple types as primitives arrays. It is provided in the SDK simply as an optional helper class. If you don't use this class, you need to implement your own class that inherits from capital A, B, S, T, R, A, C, T, capital S, Q, L, capital S, E, R, V, E, R, capital E, X, T, E, N, S, I, O, N, capital D, A, T, A. Sample. This tutorial will walk you through an end-to-end sample using the Java language extension for SQL Server. Sample code files for the tutorial can also be found under samples in this repository. Step 2. Declaring a namespace with Robert Meagher's camera SD card. The following query to the SQL server retrieved folder names, users, computer, service accounts, or groups, object types, application packages. The following query retrieves the manufacturing steps of a specific product model. Copy select instructions query. Declare namespace orme equals https://schemas.microsoft.com/server/2004/07/adventureworks product model manu instructions. Orme, root orme, location, 1, orme, step. As X from production product model where product model ID equals 7. This is the partial result. Copy, orme, step XMLNS, orme equals https://schemas.microsoft.com/server/2004/07/adventureworks product model manu instructions. Insert, orme, material, aluminum sheet MS 2341, orme, material into the, orme, tool, T85A framing tool, orme, tool, orme, step. Note that the namespace keyword is used to define a new namespace prefix, orme. This prefix then must be used in the query for all elements that fall within the scope of that namespace. B. Declaring a default namespace in the previous query, a new namespace prefix was defined. That prefix then had to be used in the query to select the intended XML structures. Alternatively, you can declare a namespace as the default namespace, as shown in the following modified query. Copy select instructions query. Declare default element namespace https://schemas.microsoft.com/server/2004/07/adventure. Works product model manu instructions. Root location, 1, step. As X from production product model where product model ID equals 7. This is the result. Copy. Step XMLNS equals https://schemas.microsoft.com/server/2004/07/adventure. Works product model manu instructions. Insert, material, aluminum sheet MS 2341, material into the, tool, T85A framing tool, step. Note in this example that the namespace defined, https://schemas.microsoft.com/server/2004/07/adventureworks product model manu instructions, is made to override the default, or empty, namespace. Because of this, you no longer have a namespace prefix in the path expression that is used to query. You also no longer have a namespace prefix in the element names that appear in the results. Additionally, the default namespace is applied to all elements, but not to their attributes. Step 3. Execute on Linux grant read execute permissions on the class path to the MS SQL satellite user. On Windows grant read and execute permissions to SQLR user group and the all application packages sit on the folder containing your compiled Java code. The entire tree must have permissions, from root parent to the last subfolder. Right-click the folder, for example, C, My Java Code, and choose Properties Security. Click Edit. Click Add. In select Users, Computer, Service Accounts, or Groups, click Object Types and make sure Built-in Security Principles and Groups are selected. Click Locations to select the local computer name at the top of the list. Enter SQLR user group, check the name, and click OK to add the group. Enter all application packages, check the name, and click OK to add. If the name doesn't resolve, revisit the Locations step. The SID is local to your machine. Make sure both security identities have read and execute permissions on the folder and the PKG subfolder. Call the Java class. Create a stored procedure that calls sp execute external script to call the Java code from SQL Server. In the script parameter, define which package class you want to call. In the code below, the class belongs to a package called PKG and a class file called regex sample Java. Note the code is not defining which method to call. By default, the execute method will be called. This means that you need to follow the SDK interface and implement an execute method in your Java class, if you want to be able to call the class from SQL Server. The stored procedure takes an input query, input dataset, and a regular expression and returns the rows that fulfill the given regular expression. It uses a regular expression, JJ, Java that checks if a text contains the word Java or Java. Note, if you get an error when you compile your classes, the PKG subfolder should contain the compiled code for all three classes. If you are not using external libraries, check permissions on each folder, from the root to PKG subfolder. To ensure that the security identities running the external process have permission to read and execute your code, the FBI direct operations to implement page 800 part 1 and part 2.